It all starts in your mind. We've all heard that one before, haven't we? But what's the actual meaning behind this cliche phrase? In this video, we'll break down the importance that your thoughts have on your reality, specifically in terms of your manifestations related to the law of attraction. We condensed a summary of chapters 1 through 12 of the Master Key system and composed this video to give you the most concise, helpful information possible. By the end of this video, you'll have some practical knowledge on the law of attraction, how it works, and how you can apply it. Let's begin. Let's start with the basics. Let's discuss just how important your thoughts are in creating your reality, using chapters 1 to 6 in the Master Key system as resources for this first section of the video. Then, we'll put this knowledge to work, so stay tuned and take notes if you'd like. Our subconscious mind is connected with the universal mind and brought into relation with the infinite constructive forces of the universe. If we use this power properly, our future is within our own deliberate control. All we need in order to accomplish our dreams is the ability to think, then act on the knowledge and bring it into manifestation.
Vibration is nothing but an idea. It's a law of the universe. Everything vibrates, nothing rests. We live in an ocean of motion. And it's the thoughts that you're thinking that you impress upon your subconscious mind that control the vibration the body's in. And that dictates how you act, but it also dictates what you attract.
The mind is static, stationary energy, and thought is dynamic, active energy, two sides of the same coin. Thought is the energizing force formed by converting static mind into dynamic mind. Every action and the following result is influenced by positive and negative thought. Therefore, every thought is a cause, and every condition or result is an effect. For this reason, it's absolutely essential that you control your thoughts so that you can bring forth only desirable conditions. Remember, the world within, aka your mind, is the cause, and the world without is the effect. So to change the effect, you must first change the cause and get your mind right. As I'm sure you're familiar with if you're watching this video, this ability to quote-unquote think things into existence is what the law of attraction is all about.
The simplest way to sum up the law of attraction is 3 words, okay? Ask, believe, receive. If you want to do another 3 words, thoughts are things. That what you think about, you actually bring about.
Our difficulties are largely due to confused ideas and ignorance of our true interests. The hard part is discovering the laws of nature so that we can adjust accordingly. Clear thinking and moral insight are therefore of immense value. All processes, including conscious and subconscious thought, need to rest on solid foundations. The conscious mind perceives and operates through the 5 physical senses: taste, smell, vision, hearing, and touch. Our conscious mind deals with the impressions and objects of the outward life. On the other hand, we have our subconscious mind. The subconscious mind doesn't quote-unquote filter out the same way the conscious mind does. It receives any suggestions as true and acts to fulfill the information into our physical reality. Those little comments you make about yourself when you look into the mirror without thinking twice about are exactly what the conscious mind works with to make what you impress onto it a reality. So, be careful how you judge yourself and others. Don't sabotage your future by constantly putting negative impressions in your mind. Like the old quote says, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
What are you giving attention and helping to grow? What are you focusing upon? Because what you're focusing upon, that's what's ultimately getting generated, getting created, and growing.
Like we just stated, it's important to eliminate any possible tendency to complain of conditions as they have been or as they are. You waste precious time and mental energy worrying if you're too far behind in life to try something new or to take a risk doing something you love. Our subconscious mind can't argue. It only acts. It accepts the conclusions of the objective mind as final. So, if you plant seeds of doubt and jealousy, you will only reap negative results because that's what you're subconsciously and sometimes consciously telling yourself you deserve. We can't state this enough, but it's important to emphasize that our thoughts become real things. Everything around you in the room right now started off as a thought in someone's head. They were then inspired to take action, then went through a lot of ups and downs in the process of business and/or personal life. But they stuck with it and had a clear, confident, and positive vision of the result. And eventually, they were able to produce the item, which you or someone else bought and is now in front of you. Our attitude of mind towards life determines the experiences which we are met with. It's like a lens or filter that lets through certain things into your perception while leaving everything else you're not in alignment with. Do you go into new environments judging the people around you? Or do you look at it as an opportunity to meet new friends and partners and find ways to bring value to the circumstance? The more we give, the more we receive. So try meeting new experiences with an open mind and positive mindset. It won't always be the easiest thing to do because sometimes life gets hard and our default is to dwell on the negative predicaments we may be put in. But learn to use that energy, transmute it, and put out into the world the energy you want to get back. We may not know how or when that energy will come back to us, but it will always find its way right back to the source. Most people allow their thoughts to dwell on selfish circumstances. This is an immature approach to life. When a mind becomes mature, it understands that the germ of defeat is in every selfish thought. The trained mind knows that every transaction must benefit every person who is in any way connected with the transaction, and any attempt to profit from the weakness or ignorance of another person will inevitably be to your disadvantage. This is because the individual is a part of the universal. A part cannot antagonize any other part of the whole, but on the contrary, the welfare of each part depends on the recognition of the interest of the whole.
The world within is controlled by the I, and that this I is part or one with the infinite I, which is the universal energy or spirit, usually called God.
The matter that composes all of the universe is largely passive. However, the mind is force, energy, and power. The mind shapes and controls the passive matter of the universe. As human beings, our greatest asset is the ability to think and create. And since thoughts are creative, you can create for yourself the things you desire. We're creatures who combine our creative nature with the resources around us to build civilizations and create technological breakthroughs for the betterment of humanity. In order to get more creative and eventually realize the life of our dreams, we have to properly use the power and energy we already have. If you can't properly use the few resources you have, why do you deserve more? It's the same way that many poor individuals who suddenly receive a large amount of money almost always lose it within a certain amount of time. They hadn't built up the foundation and properly understood how to use the resource of money that they already had. So, when they randomly won a large amount of money, they didn't have the knowledge and values to properly use it. Therefore, no matter how much or how little you have right now, make the most of it. Be grateful that you have even just a few tools and helpful people around you, and watch how everything eventually grows over time. Many times, at first, we might fail at manifestations because our desire is too broad and undefined. It isn't until the thought is sufficiently refined and concentrated that the realization will finally be manifested. It's the difference between imagining driving just any type of car versus precisely visualizing driving a BMW with a friend or family member in the passenger seat congratulating you on your new purchase. The first could manifest you into valeting someone's car back to them or only getting to test drive a car, while the second solidifies that you wanted a specific car and that the car is yours and not someone else's. It's a learning process, so don't get frustrated and discouraged in the beginning. Just keep refining and concentrating your thoughts on your desired outcomes. In life, we have to learn from each mistake and go back into the next action with this new perspective and knowledge about what to avoid doing in the future. Growth follows knowledge. Action follows inspiration. Opportunity follows perception. Always the spiritual first, then the realization. Now, let's put this knowledge to work. In chapters 7 through 12 of the Master Key System, the book outlines the steps to manifestation using the in-depth analysis we just discussed. Let's talk about the necessary steps to manifest your desires. The first step is idealization. Then comes the process of visualization. A sincere desire will bring a confident expectation, and this in turn must be reinforced by a firm demand. Make the world within beautiful and opulent, and the world without will express and manifest the condition that you have in the world within. You have to concentrate on the things you want, not on the things you don't want. Visualize a scenario which would only happen if you achieved or received what you desire. This will result in manifestation, like the car example we gave earlier. The law of attraction is impartial and doesn't distinguish between what we want and what we don't want, only what we concentrate on subconsciously. So, when we're too anxious, we manifest anxiety, fear, and distress. Especially when it's something we really want to happen. We end up constantly going back into our thoughts and planting seeds of doubt and anxiety into our subconscious mind. This disrupts the peace and distorts the directions we gave ourselves subconsciously. Doing this is the same as planting a seed and going back every few hours into our backyard garden and digging up the soil to see if the seed has made any progress, because we haven't seen any growth on the surface of the soil. Except in the case of manifestation, the garden is our mind. We dig back up the visualizations and input negative circumstances filled with, what if it doesn't manifest? How come it's taking so long? We know that digging up the soil in our backyard garden will damage the growth process and ruin the seed. But this is what many of us end up doing with our mental gardens.
First step is always to actually calm your mind, okay? Because in that panic mode, we're like, we need it now, but that's chaos stage, because there's so many different things that are flying through our head in that moment, and we need to understand thoughts equal vibration. Vibration equals attraction, so we attract everything that we think of, and we don't want all of that chaos to continue to manifest.
In order to be successful, we must make it our sole purpose to hold ideals of the conditions we wish to realize. We need to constantly hold in our mind the next step necessary to reach the ideal we are striving towards. Thoughts are the materials we use to build, and the imagination is the mental workshop. Have a calm certainty that you will achieve your goals. Hold in mind the condition desired and affirm it as an already existing fact. This is the true power of affirmations discussed within the law of attraction and the Master Key System. Constant repetition leads to thoughts becoming a part of us. It becomes who we are. We have to begin actually changing ourselves and making ourselves what we want to be in order to become the type of person that would attract that specific manifestation into their life. When you follow a thought into an action, conditions follow as a result of the action, and joy or suffering will be the reward, depending on the cause. Visualization in this process should be used as a tool that strengthens the foundation of what we're already thinking. For example, if you want love, try to realize that the only way to get love is by giving it. The more you give, the more you will get, and the only way in which you can give it is to fill yourself with it until you become a magnet. But if we send out thoughts of fear, worry, jealousy, anger, and hate, well, like we've talked about, this is exactly what we will reap in our own lives.
If you look at what you really want, what every human being wants is, he wants to live joyfully, he wants to live peacefully. In terms of his relationships, he wants it to be loving and affectionate. Or in other words, all that any human being is seeking for is pleasantness within himself, pleasantness around him.
The universal mind can be depended upon to find the ways and means for bringing about any necessary manifestation. We must, however, create the ideal, and this ideal should be perfect. Wisdom, strength, courage, and all harmonious conditions are the result of power, and we have seen that all power is from within you first before it's expressed from anything or anyone else around you. Likewise, every lack, limitation, or adverse circumstance is the result of weakness, and weakness is simply the absence of power. The solution, then, is to simply develop power by exercising it in your own life. Abundance won't come out of the sky, but from a conscious realization of the law of attraction and the intention to bring it into operation for a certain, definite, and specific purpose, and the will to carry out this purpose will bring about the materialization of your desire by the natural law of transference. When any object or purpose is clearly held in thought, its manifestation is merely a question of time. The time and thought which most people waste in aimless efforts would accomplish wonders if properly directed towards a specific goal. How many people do we know or see that waste their energy hating or trolling on others? Imagine what could be accomplished if that same time and effort was directed towards a specific, concentrated goal. But unless you can fully concentrate on a specific goal, you will have a vague, indistinct, and blurred outline of your ideal, and the results will be in accordance with your mental picture, vague. You must first have the knowledge of your power, second, the courage to dare, and third, the faith to do. We'll see you in part 2 of the series, where we go into even more depth on the law of attraction, using chapters 13 through 24 of the Master Key System. If we can truly be happy, we can have everything the world can give. The beauty of being happy is that you impulsively want to make others happy as well. But it becomes hard to attain happiness unless we have health, loved ones, a pleasant environment, and a sufficient supply that not only allows us to take care of ourselves, but to also provide for our loved ones. We'll get exactly what we give, but we have to give it first. Then it returns to us tenfold. Giving is simply a mental process, because thoughts are causes and conditions are effects. Therefore, when you give positivity in the form of courage, health, inspiration, or any kind of help, we are setting causes in motion which will bring about the effect. We learned in the last video that thought is a spiritual activity, but don't get it confused. Thought will create nothing unless it's consciously, systematically, and constructively directed. This makes the difference between idle thinking, which some justify for being lazy, and constructive thinking, which means practically unlimited achievement. A happy thought can't exist in an unhappy consciousness. Therefore, the consciousness must change, and as the consciousness changes, all conditions necessary to meet the changed consciousness must also gradually change in order to meet the requirements of the new situation. Your thoughts must be clear-cut, definite, and unchangeable. You cannot take one step forward and 2 steps back. If you've spent 20 or 30 years of your life building up negative conditions as the result of negative thoughts, don't expect to just see them melt away as the result of 15 or 20 minutes of correct thinking. You have to be persistent and clear in your vision, and hold it until there comes a time where you can't think any other way. It's almost like you have to brainwash yourself to think in terms of how you want your life to be, even if everything around you right now says otherwise. It's not easy at first, so don't get frustrated if you find yourself drifting back into old habits of mind every so often. Just catch yourself and get back on the right track. We won't obtain what we're striving for if we continuously cling to what we have. Let's discuss our thoughts for a bit. When you enter this world, the first form which thought manifests itself is language or words. No matter what your native language is, words are the first thing we learn to use to express what we're thinking. And if you'd like, you can even think of thoughts as their own living entities. They're constantly floating around from person to person, searching for ways to manifest themselves in reality. These thoughts may lead to action, but whatever the action, it's simply the thought attempting to express itself in physical form. With this in mind, if we want desirable conditions, we can only afford to entertain desirable thoughts. The inevitable conclusion is that if we wish to express abundance in our lives, we have to think abundance. And since words are only thoughts taking form, we must be especially careful to use nothing but constructive and harmonious language, which when finally crystallized into reality, will create exactly what we wished for. When speaking or thinking, we have to remember that the subconscious cannot reason. If we subconsciously ask for something, it's only a matter of time until we receive it, good or bad. As the old saying goes, we've made our bed, now we have to lay in it. Money can't buy happiness. Wealth should never be desired as an end, but simply as a means of accomplishing an end. Success is dependent on a higher ideal than just the accumulation of a bunch of money. And if you aspire for success, you will have to formulate an ideal that you want to strive for. What does your ideal life look like? Where do you live? How do you look like? Who are the people around you? What do you want to accomplish in your life? With a strong ideal in mind, the ways and means can and will be provided, but there must be a definite, fixed purpose for your ideal. Whatever enters the mind through the physical senses or subconsciousness will impress the mind and result in a mental image which will become a pattern for the creative energy. By exercising this power, we can control our own destiny, our own body, mind, and soul. But how do we even control our thoughts? We've brought it up several times now, but what's the actual process? To think is to create, but the result of the thought will depend on its form, its quality, and its vitality. The form will depend on the mental images that the thought invokes, and this will depend on the depth of the impression, the predominance of the idea, and the clarity and boldness of the vision. If the thought is constructive, it will possess vitality. It will have life and will be creative. It will attract everything necessary for its complete development. But if the thought is destructive, it will have within itself the seed of its own defeat. It'll die, but in the process of dying, it'll bring disease, sickness, and every other form of disharmony. None of this is quote-unquote esoteric teaching. In fact, all of this information is scientific. When we realize this, it becomes so much easier to realize our desire is an already accomplished fact. And when we can do that, we have found the truth which makes us free from every lack or limitation. We're used to looking at the universe through the lens of the 5 senses, and these experiences shape our perceptions. But true perception is only secured by spiritual insight. This insight requires energizing the mind, which is only accomplished when the mind is continuously concentrated in a given direction. Continuous concentration means an even, unbroken flow of thought, and is the result of patience and persistence. Be so involved in your ideal thoughts that you're almost unconscious of anything else. This level of focus and concentration leads to intuitive perception and immediate insight into the nature of the object concentrated on. All knowledge is the result of this kind of concentration. The mind becomes a magnet, and the desire to know draws the attention, irresistibly attracts it, and makes it your own. Desire is largely subconscious. Conscious desire rarely realizes what it wants. Like discussed in part 1 of this series, concentration requires the control of the physical, which the average person has trouble with. Everyone always wants to have, but never seeks to be. They fail to understand that they can't have one without the other. Intuition is actually better than traditional reasoning because it doesn't depend on experience or memory, and it frequently brings about the solution in a way that we could have never imagined. How many times have you been trying to solve a problem, but no matter how hard you try and force a solution, nothing works? Then you go on a walk or take a shower, and all of a sudden an idea comes to you. Every obstacle conquered and every victory gained will give you more faith in your power, and you will have greater ability to win since you have gained a new tool in your arsenal. Your strength is determined by your mental attitude, and if this attitude is focused on success and you hold that ideal with an unwavering purpose, you will attract from some seemingly invisible force exactly what you've silently demanded. Thoughts of abundance will respond only to similar thoughts. An individual's wealth is attained because that is who that individual has become, someone who attracts wealth. Wealth within is the secret of attraction for wealth without. The ability to produce is found to be the real source of wealth of an individual. So, someone who is focused on bringing value to others is destined to reach success. This type of person continuously gives, and the more he gives, the more he receives. Let's talk about an interesting phenomenon for a bit. What do the CEOs, inventors, authors, and artists all have in common that gives them the ability to reach such massive success? They don't work in coal mines or farming fields to physically bring value to other people. So why are they able to make so much money? Because they usually contribute value in the form of their thought. Think about it. Music, software programs, and books are products of a person's ideas. Their thoughts are what's so valuable and allows them to make so much money. Thought is the energy which the law of attraction is brought into operation, which eventually manifests into abundance. Thought combined with attention will cultivate what you give your attention to. The incentive of attention is interest. The greater the interest, the greater the attention. So, once you've found what you want to focus on, begin by practicing how to pay attention. And before long, you'll gain interest. And this interest will attract more attention, and so on and so forth. Fear is a powerful form of thought. It paralyzes the nerve centers and affects the circulation of the blood. This, in turn, paralyzes the muscular system so that fear affects your entire body, brain, and nerves. The way to overcome fear is to become conscious of power. When you have power over something, you're not afraid of it. So, if your thoughts are powerful, constructive, and positive, this can do nothing but improve the state of your mental and physical health, your business, and your environment. On the other hand, if your thoughts are weak, destructive, and negative, it'll manifest in your body as fear, worry, and nervousness, and in your financial situation as lack, limitation, and inharmonious conditions in your environment. All wealth and health are the offspring of power. Thought predetermines action. Action predetermines condition. When thought is in harmony with the universal mind, it will result in parallel conditions. And of course, if that thought is destructive, it will produce the parallel conditions to that. You may use thought constructively or destructively, but the immutable law won't allow you to plant a thought of one kind and reap the fruit of another. Realize that you externalize in your environment what you internalize in your soul. One method of achieving success is to think big thoughts. Large ideas have a tendency to eliminate all smaller ideas. So, it's a good idea to hold large ideas that counteract and destroy all small or undesirable conditions. You also become conscious of a larger world of thought, therefore increasing your mental capacity as well as placing yourself in a position to accomplish something of value. Our predominant thoughts and mental attitude are the magnet, and the law states that like attracts like energy, so our mental attitude will always attract conditions that correspond to their nature. Our personality is also composed of the thoughts which we create in our own mind. So, if you want to change your personality to be more harmonious, change the picture you create in your mind. Destroy the negatives and create new pictures. This is the art of visualization. As soon as you do this, you'll begin to attract new things, and the new things will correspond to the new pictures. Here's an example to practice visualization. Impress on your mind a perfect picture of the desire you wish to have, and constantly hold the picture in your mind until results are obtained. This will create a magnetic power that attracts the things you require. They'll give you your ideal life, and life means growth. So as soon as it begins to grow, the result is practically reality. There's no limit to what this law can do for you, so dare to believe in your own ideas. And remember that nature is molded to an ideal, so it's important to think of an ideal as an already accomplished fact. We have to recognize the divine nature of the human spirit and recognize that all power is from within. No human being has any more power than any other human being, unless the other human beings give it to them. Now, we know that thought is the creative activity behind every constructive activity. Creative thought requires attention, and the power of attention is a powerful weapon. Attention has become somewhat of a currency over the past decade. Social media stars get paid for their ability to hold other people's attention. The money consciousness is an attitude of mind. We make money by making friends and bringing value, and we enlarge our circle of friends by making money for them, by helping them, and by being of service to them. Therefore, the first law of success is service, which is built on integrity and justice. An individual who isn't fair in his intention is simply ignorant and has missed the fundamental law of all exchange. If you have the insight to perceive and utilize opportunities and recognize value, you can put yourself in a position to take advantage of them. But your greatest success will come when you're able to find and bring value to others. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos didn't get rich because they took value from other people. On the contrary, it's because they gave value to other people that they became the wealthiest men in the wealthiest country in the world. What benefits one must benefit all. The minute the spirit leaves us, we become nothing but a body. Therefore, spirit is really all there is of us. Now, the only power that the spirit has is the power to think. Therefore, thought must be creative because spirit is creative. This power is impersonal, and your ability to think is your ability to control it and use it for the benefit of yourself and others. When the truth of this statement is realized, understood, and appreciated, you will have come into possession of the master key. But remember, only those who are wise enough to understand, broad enough to weigh the evidence, firm enough to follow their own judgment, and strong enough to make the sacrifice necessary will be successful. This week, try and realize that this is actually a wonderful world we live in, and that you are a wonderful being that has a new knowledge of the truth. You now have an understanding between the true and the false. So go out there and create your reality.